A tiny kitten, no bigger than a human fist, barely 8 weeks old, stood in the middle of a hallway at 2:47 in the morning and screamed. Not meowed, screamed, until the bedroom door opened. What Sarah found on the other side of that door would send her racing to an emergency vet and force her to confront something she hadn't let herself believe. That small, uninvited stray had just saved Milo's life. Nobody warns you about the silence. Not the kind that falls when a house empties. The other kind, the kind that settles in slowly, room by room, when something that used to be full of life simply stops. Milo had been Sarah's cat for 6 years. 6 years of ambushed ankles and stolen blankets, and that specific infuriating way he would sit directly on whatever she was trying to read. He was 11 pounds of orange attitude with amber eyes that somehow always looked like they knew something she didn't. And then, without warning, he stopped. Not all at once, that would have been easier to catch. It happened the way bad things often happen, gradually, then suddenly. First, he stopped jumping onto the counter. Then he stopped meeting her at the door. By the 3rd week, he'd claimed a single corner of the couch and barely left it. He ate just enough to worry her and slept far more than even a cat should. Sarah told herself it was the weather. Then she told herself it was his age. Then she stopped telling herself anything and made the appointment. The vet's name was Dr. Patel, and she had the particular gift of delivering difficult news without making it feel like a verdict. Joint inflammation, she explained. Progressive, manageable, but already affecting his mobility more than his behavior had let on. Cats, she noted, were extraordinarily good at hiding pain. By the time they showed it, they had usually been carrying it for a long time. "How long has he been less active?" she asked. Sarah thought about it, really thought about it. "Longer than I realized," she said quietly. Dr. Patel nodded. There would be medication, dietary changes, scheduled movement, but then she said something that caught Sarah completely off guard. "His inflammation markers are elevated, but honestly, what concerns me more is his mental state. He's withdrawn, disengaged. Cats are more socially complex than people give them credit for." She paused. "Has he always been alone?" Sarah said yes. "Consider a companion, a younger cat, high energy, something that won't let him opt out." She almost smiled. "Sometimes the best medicine isn't something I can prescribe." That night, Sarah opened every adoption listing she could find. She scrolled for 2 hours. Kittens with enormous ears, kittens with bold, demanding eyes, kittens who looked like they would absolutely destroy her couch and feel no remorse whatsoever. None of them felt right, though she couldn't have explained why. She closed the laptop at midnight and told herself she'd try again in the morning. She didn't have to. 4 days later, on a gray Thursday morning, she was standing at the kitchen window with her first cup of coffee when something moved near the back fence. Low to the ground, unsteady, orange and white with 4 white paws that seemed slightly too large for the rest of him. A kitten, alone, moving through the wet grass with the careful, deliberate focus of a creature that had been surviving entirely on determination for longer than was reasonable. She set her coffee down. She went to the back door, opened it slowly, and crouched near the step. The kitten stopped, looked at her with eyes that were too serious for something so small. Then, after a moment that felt much longer than it was, he walked directly to her and placed one white paw on her knee. No hesitation, no audition, just arrival. She named him Fig. And if you're still watching but haven't subscribed yet, I'll be honest, that stings a little. Hit subscribe. What happens next is exactly why we make these videos. The introduction took 4 days. Separate rooms, scent swapping, a cracked door with 2 sets of eyes on either side. Standard protocol for a situation that felt anything but standard, because on one side of that door was a sick, depressed 6-year-old cat who had stopped wanting things, and on the other side was a kitten who appeared to want approximately everything, all at once, immediately. Fig talked constantly, not quiet chirps, full conversations directed at the closed door, at the ceiling, at his own reflection in the water bowl. He was, by any measure, a lot. On the 4th day, Sarah opened the door. Milo was in his corner of the couch. He opened one eye. Fig spotted him from across the room and went completely still for exactly 3 seconds, the only 3 seconds in recorded history that Fig had ever been completely still, and then began crossing the room with the calm, unstoppable energy of someone who had already decided how this was going to go. He climbed the couch, he walked up to Milo, he sat down 4 inches from Milo's face and stared at him with those 2 serious eyes. Milo stared back. Fig waited. And then, as if the matter had been settled to his satisfaction, he turned a small circle and pressed himself against Milo and went to sleep. Milo didn't move away. Sarah stood in the doorway for a long moment, not entirely sure what she had just witnessed. The weeks that followed were not a fairy tale. Not yet. Milo tolerated Fig the way a tired professor tolerates an overly enthusiastic student, with a mixture of resignation and, occasionally, something that might have been reluctant interest. Fig, for his part, operated under the assumption that Milo's tolerance was the same thing as enthusiasm, and acted accordingly. He brought Milo toys, Milo ignored them, he groomed Milo's ears without being asked, Milo endured it with a profound expression of dignity. He slept pressed against him every single night, a warm, purring anchor that Milo had not requested and apparently could not figure out how to remove. Slowly, very slowly, Milo began to move more. Not dramatically, not in ways that would make a good video montage, just a little more. To the window, down the hall, into a patch of afternoon sunlight he had stopped visiting. Sarah noticed. She didn't say anything about it. She just noticed. And then came the night that changed everything. It was a Wednesday, 2:47 in the morning. Sarah was asleep when she heard it. Not a normal sound. Not the soft thud of a cat jumping off furniture, or the usual 3 a.m. chaos of Fig deciding that midnight was an excellent time to sprint the full length of the hallway. This was different. High, sustained, urgent in a way that pulled her out of sleep before she was fully conscious. Fig was standing outside her bedroom door, screaming. She opened the door. Fig didn't come in. He turned and ran, back down the hallway toward the living room, and stopped and looked back at her. She followed. Milo was on the floor beside the couch, not asleep. His body was rigid, his legs extended, his breathing labored and wrong. His eyes were open but unfocused. He had been there long enough that Fig had clearly been trying to wake her for some time. What followed was a blur of car keys and a dark highway and the particular fluorescent cruelty of an emergency vet waiting room at 3 in the morning. A seizure, the vet on call explained, likely connected to the inflammation, possibly something additional that would need further investigation. He was stable. It had been serious. If she had found him an hour later, the outcome might have been different. She sat in that waiting room for 2 hours with Fig's carrier on the seat beside her. She hadn't thought, she'd just grabbed him, and Fig pressed his face against the carrier door and made small, continuous sounds that were nothing like his usual noise, quieter, like he understood. Some stories deserve to be shared. If this one is making you feel something, you already know what to do. Milo came home 2 days later. He was slower, quieter. The episode had taken something from him, and recovery would be measured in weeks, not days. Dr. Patel adjusted his medications, scheduled follow-ups, outlined a careful plan. But the thing nobody had planned for was Fig. From the night of the seizure, something shifted. It was as if the kitten, who had spent weeks cheerfully ignoring all boundaries and social cues, had suddenly understood the assignment with complete clarity. He stopped the midnight sprinting. He stopped the relentless toy bringing. He became, almost overnight, something steadier. He slept beside Milo every night, same as before, but differently now. Not pressed carelessly against him the way a kitten presses against warmth, deliberately. Positioned so that he would feel any change in Milo's breathing before Sarah would. Whether he understood what he was doing, whether any of it was intention rather than instinct, is a question that probably has no answer. But here is what is true. In the 6 weeks following Milo's seizure, he had his best blood work results since the inflammation was diagnosed. He was moving more consistently than he had in over a year. And every single morning, without exception, Fig was there when he woke up. Not because anyone asked him to be, because he had decided sometime between a gray Thursday morning and a 2:47 a.m. hallway that this was his place, this was his cat, and he was not going to leave him alone. Sarah still thinks about the timing sometimes. The listing she never found the right match in, the 4 days between the vet appointment and the Thursday morning, the gray sky and the wet grass, and the white paws that were slightly too large for the rest of him. She had been looking, and Fig had been walking toward her back door the entire time. Nobody will ever fully explain what Fig heard that night, or how he knew, or why he screamed instead of hiding. Animals carry things we don't have language for. They notice what we miss. They stay when staying is hard. Milo will always need managing. His joints will always have bad days, but every bad day now begins the same way, with a small orange and white cat already there, already present, already refusing to leave. The kitten nobody sent for, the alarm nobody installed, the one who showed up in the backyard and simply decided that Milo was worth staying for. If you're thinking about adding a pet to your home, please take the time to do it right. Talk to your vet, visit your local shelter, learn what your animal needs and what they might be trying to tell you, because sometimes they're saying more than we know how to hear. Was this instinct or was this something else entirely? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you think.